Thank you. But I'll share some of this.
It's raining.
My knowledge is that this whole chemical,
Hopefully that fixed the buffering.
this whole modification on the seed took a big jump after World War II. You know, after that it just kept going.
How is the buffering? Is it fixed or is it still doing it?
I'm one of those people who kind of like to look at both sides of the picture, you know, and I say, you know, well, you know, these corporations were trying to help feed the world, and I sit there and say, well, you know, maybe they're right. Fuck you, no, you're not. No. But that was my ignorance. I have to say that. I have to say
Thank you.
That was part of my ignorance.
Thank you.
It's not. It's just a model of capitalism that is going to be driven by Wall Street, and Wall Street is going to get every single cent they can out of
New World Order police state moving in
to make their profit.
Here they come.
Let me stop for a minute.
Another big waste of tax money.
Shareholders. Once a company goes public, there goes values out the door, man. And so a gentleman mentioned before, in the 70s it was DDT, Agent Orange. Oh.
Thank you, Bailey. Smash that thumbs button. Everybody hit like button. Let Monsanto know that you hate them.
That was one of Monsanto's things. Now, but the other thing I want to bring to this conversation is that we're talking about the U.S. You know, a lot of guys come up here and talk about, but I want to expand the conversation a little bit to countries like Haiti. After one of the earthquakes in Haiti, some years
transit
ago,
police. I don't know why the transit police would be hauling through downtown, but
dropped tons of seeds, and of course, you know, Haiti is one of the poorest countries in the Caribbean. Of course they took, but later on they understood what the consequences. And one of the best YouTube films that I've seen is the farmers, the actual farmers, taking the seeds and burning them. I just love that a farmer knows that he took those seeds and burned them. Of course, not everybody did, because everybody, you know, some people have more needs than others. But see, the strategy here is to dump this product. Once this product gets on the field, you have monopolized that piece of land. Now it becomes yours, because anything that produces out of the land is yours. It's the corporations. So I talk about Haiti. I talk about Veneuzuela. I talk Mexico. Mexico has had a big war with this also, because, as you know,
yeah, for videos like this, there should be a big middle finger button instead of a thumbs up button from Monsanto.
Of different types of corns. They indigenous people, they engineered themselves without modifying the actual seed. Of course, somebody has mentioned something about the environment. You know, the environment, the water, all this stuff is going in the water and the environment. One of the interesting the things that I remember reading about was this test in Britain that they did on rats. And after, I don't know, 6 months or so, the rats did not look very healthy. I think somebody talked about that a little bit. The rats did not look healthy at all. And then the studies went out, like somebody mentioned before. Science has a way of, good scientists have a way of just being shoved into the corner and told to shut up. But Monsanto, what they did is they said, no. See, what happened to that study is they used the wrong rats. Oh, of course, that's an explanation. They use the wrong type of rat, because we use these rats. What do you mean we use these rats? Oh, wait, you must be talking about us humans, right? We're the rats here.
The guy got it. It's funny, the comment and the guy saying it at the same time.
Monsanto, this is a March Against Monsanto, but it's sort of like an ideological thing, because right now there are about 12 Monsantos, DuPont, and somebody give me another name, give me another name, another corporation.
Bayer.
Well, Mayor is Bear, but they're the
Syngenta.
Syngenta. There you go, Syngenta. These are companies that are doing the same thing as Monsanto. They're doing the same. There's about 12 of them now. It's estimated that in 10 years down to 6. And so what that means is that these companies are working themselves into monopolizing our food. That's where I come in. I stamp my feet and I say, you can't do this shit. You can't. And I think, how come how come we don't see like 5,000 people out here today?
It's
the
crazy.
reason we don't see 5,000 people today because we all don't know what's going on. We don't feel like we're in a crisis. I'm in a crisis. I know that this whole situation, you guys know that we're in a crisis, but the first 4,900 people that didn't come today don't know that we're in a crisis. We just don't know. We just go on and, we buy our GNC and we buy our Burger King, we buy our McDonald's and we buy our Starbucks and we're pretty happy. Ha ha ha. And life goes on really well. Okay, so I have to round it up. I'm sorry. So the last thing I want to say here is, what do we do? So I have a couple of things. I said, let's boycott. Well, the boycott's been around for a while, right? But in order for me to boycott, I have to educate myself. So let me educate myself, and that's how we do in these classrooms. I call these kind of classrooms. We educate us so we can know the size of this gentleman shared for us is great, and so on and so on. So we educate ourselves. That's one way of moving of a movement. I agree that we can't have a Democrat or a Republican. They both screw us the same. And I thank Hillary Clinton for making that clear for us, because if it would have been for her, we would have still be dreaming about the Democrats who are going to save us. No, they're not. Thank you, Hillary Clinton. About boycotting. I'm a strong believer, and I'm running it. I'm a strong believer of microeconomics.
Clinton's too busy hanging out at pizza parlors and with Nexium clients.
Somebody with microeconomics. And what microeconomics is going to do for us is we're going to take the power. We're going to take the power. I wanted to. This is us. This is our power. This is our strength right here. And I can choose where I put it. I can choose who I want to give it to. And they all want it. They want this so bad. But I can make choices. I can make wise choices as to who to give it to. One of the most sad things I found some years ago is that when what's his name? Mitt Romney was running for president, CBS, which is down the street, gave Mitt Romney $10 million for his campaign. And I go to CBS all the time. That means that I'm giving Romney my money. I was pretty upset with myself. And one last thing, it's really, and this is my closing statement, I'm sorry. This is my closing statement, is that we are here because we believe.
Yeah.
Let me take a moment of silence. I want that to sort of sink in there. We are here because we believe. And together, we can make a difference.
Wow, this guy's great, though.
Together,
great talk.
We can make a difference. I leave you with those words. Thank you so much.
Woo. Thank you,
Awesome
Luis
talk.
Sanchez,
Love it.
Venezuela Solidarity Committee. Thank you so
Very
much
nice.
for being here today. All right, next up, our next speaker is Samna Mukherjee, and he's, I forgot, sorry, with the Association for India's Development. Thank you for being here, Samna.
Thank you for having me here, and it was really great that people showed up on a bad weather day like this. I work with a volunteer organization, but basically I work with farmers in India and many other marginalized communities who are Adivasis, who are indigenous people, Dalit groups, transgender groups. So it's a full circle that we try to take a perspective of the marginalized. But today's relevant discussion is about farmers. Farmers, India is still about 60 to 70% agrarian, which means not 60-70% of the people are farmers, but farmers.
Sorry,
So
phone
you
call.
can imagine it's a lot more than that.
Phone
And
call
what is
came
the
in,
reason
sorry.
for this agrarian crisis where farmers are taking their own lives, drinking pesticides to kill themselves? The pesticide that is supposed to be killing the pests in the farm is used to kill the farm because the farmer cannot take the load of the debt anymore. They have been run into debt because the input costs have gone up. Now, as you know, the land holding in India is very, very small. 67% of India's farmers own less than a hectare of land. And this is average across the country, where some land is arid land, dry land. So there aren't people who are owning, like Midwest farmers. When we think of farmers in the US, we think of Midwest, we think of aeroplanes flying by with, poison loaded from Monsanto and all that. Indian farmers work. Indian farmers bare feet, their bare hands, they are spraying the most toxic of the chemicals with without their faces covered, without their skin covered. That's what an Indian farmer is. In all of this scenario, Monsanto enters India in 1998 with first field trials. And the places it attacks as the cotton growing belt of Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra. And within a few years, this is what Monsanto does everywhere, I'm sure, about India, is monopolizes the market. It captures, it drives everyone out, it partners, and India is known, Indian governments are known to do these kind of partnerships and crush the people, especially the poor. So it partners with Mexico and takes over the market completely. There are no seeds to be found except for Monsanto's BT cotton. And all the farmers, 90% of the farmers in 2005 that committed suicide in Vidarbha region of Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh were all growing BT cotton. This needs more water, this needs more pesticides, it needs more chemical fertilizers, which means the input costs for the farmers have gone up. And then there's a crop failure, there's a drought, there isn't the required amount of minimum support price that the farmers get, and then the farmer runs into debt and cannot keep up with it and kills himself or herself. This has been the story of farmers in India. So as we speak, a farmer in India commits suicide every 30 minutes. And it's not a national crisis. Some other bullshit is the national crisis. Like, it happens everywhere. You know what was trending in India today on Twitter? Royal wedding. That is the trending topic in India. Right? Farmers are committing suicide. Parties come and go. No one flags this as a national crisis. And companies like Monsanto come and destroy the entire. And they are pushing hard to get into food crops. GM is not allowed in food crops in India. Why would you? People are dying anyways for lack of food. What extra would you do to drive those half-starved people into more debt, right? So still it is not allowed. So it's only in cotton so far, but it's trying very, very hard. Because of companies like Monsanto, I don't know if it was the main architect, but there are companies like Monsanto and others who have helped with the government to draft a seed bill which prohibits the farmers of India to exchange or sell seeds that they have grown. So this is the point where we need to understand what Monsanto's want is complete control over seeds and complete control over food. They will say sit, all farmers will sit. They will say stand, all farmers will stand. This is what they're after. But because of heavy pushback from the civil society, from farmers groups and all of that. That is the only reason why the seeds bill has not passed. So that's, I don't want to prolong my, everyone has talked about, most of the things, but we have to be very careful. As we know, many speakers talked about this looming crisis of glyphosate in everything in our environment. It's killing biodiversity, not only in India, everywhere. The state that I come from, in 1947, when India got independence, it had 5,000 varieties of rice. Today, there are 300 varieties left. And that's, hybridization and GM and this and that all going on. So it's great that at least some people are aware of it, taking a stance. And like Rachel Carson had said, it is the indication to harm that should drive us into action and not the proof of harm. If we wait for harm to be proved, it's already too late. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great talk. That was great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, our next speaker is Jad Stamus. He is Green Rainbow Party candidate for State Auditor. Jad, thank you for being here.
Oh, nice.
Hi, how's it going? And I'd just like to thank all of the people who have spoken before, Brother Ebony, Dave, Titus, Frost, Shiva. I didn't get everyone's name, but some excellent speeches. So I'm Jed Stamus. I'm running for Massachusetts State Auditor with the Green Rainbow Party because I am sick of the two-party oligarchy. Both parties take money from lobbyists, from corporate interests.
That's right.
And we know, thank you, it's been in the paper. There's a culture of sexual harassment. When there's a sexual harassment complaint, a non-disclosure agreement is signed and people are paid out of our taxpayer money. And we don't know what happened. I think Massachusetts citizens have the right to know when sexual harassment and abuse is going on Beacon Hill. And so, thank you. I've participated in the March Against Monsanto for many years. In fact, I wrote a paper back in middle school in the 80s about GMOs. And I just want to say, back then we knew about the risks of GMOs. People were writing about this, but it was pushed through by Monsanto, by big corporations like Bayer and other GMO companies. And this year I've decided to turn my words into action and run for auditor because the current auditor, Suzanne Bump, and the auditor before her, they only performed selective audits. They've only looked at a few computers here, few invoices over there. They haven't looked at the system as a whole. And state law, if you look at the Massachusetts state law requires that every government entity and agency be audited once every 3 years. And if you look at the website, if you look at Suzanne Bump's website, she has not audited every government entity or state government entity or agency every 3 years. There's many major agencies like the Environmental Police, for example, who she only audited once. Other agencies she hasn't audited at all in 8 years. So I'd like you to check that out. So as auditor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange my office to look at all state systems, as well as the system as a whole. I'm not just going to look at minor details.
Put
and
the
this
government
way,
on a
more
goddamn
productive
blockchain.
recommendations can be made as to how government can actually serve the interests of the people in our communities, not the moneyed elites. In the same way, I would like to look at the big picture, the big perspective in this march. I feel Monsanto is a perfect example of two things. The first thing is the way in which global corporate capitalism impacts local communities and stifles their economic development. Because of Monsanto, as we've heard from the speakers before, farmers around the world have lost local control. They're forced to buy their seeds from a big international corporation that basically has a monopoly, Monsanto, and they're forced to pollute their soil with pesticides like glucosamine that we've heard about already. And these farmers, they're not even given the option of farming organically, even if they would prefer to do so and make more money doing so, because we know that in this day and age, a lot of people only buy organic food because they know that it's healthier. Fortunately, I can't always afford just to get organic. All right. So I'd like to say this is not a problem just happening in other parts of the world. Right here in Massachusetts, big corporations get tax breaks like military contractors, and they siphon away resources from local communities. They siphon away resources in social services, and they siphon away money from local businesses. And we all know that because of an increasing lack of options, because of this, we're forced to buy from big chains like Walmart, where the ratio between worker pay and CEO pay can be 1,000 or 5,000 times as money when people are getting minimum wage, and it's not even enough money to afford a home, okay, to afford health care, all the costs of living. I mean, it's no surprise more people are turning to crime because crime pays more than $11 an hour. So
Yeah, Trump is friends with Epstein. People asking about that, but that ended when he caught him abusing a young girl at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. And according to the flight logs, I've never seen Trump on the Epstein flight manifest.
Academic, intellectual thought and public policy. And this is the idea that we can do something, we should do it. And I'd like to say, like Shiva, I'm also a scientist. I have a degree in physics, and I do support scientific progress. However, I'd like to make an important distinction between science and technology. Technology is not the same thing as science, okay? Technology is the application of science for an end goal. And this is the problem. What is the end goal? Okay, the end for which technology is often used might not be the best interest of regular people. It might even cause harm to regular people. And in the case of military technology, thousands of innocent people around the world are dying from it. In the case of GMOs, the end is only to make more money for the shareholders of that corporation. The end is not to make the lives of farmers any easier, as we've already heard. So I believe we must look at every technology with a skeptical eye, because all too often, as we've seen in medicine, medications are released without enough testing or analysis. And in the case with opioids and benzodiazepines, they were prescribed, overprescribed, and widespread addiction and even social dysfunction is resulting from that. So we have to be very careful. We have to test. We have to be skeptical about every new technology and ensure that it is completely safe. A technology like geoengineering or using biological organisms for military purposes. It might look like a good idea. It might look like it'll work. But when you're looking at a complex system, like the Earth's ecosystem, like the weather system, any number of unforeseen things can go wrong. It's a complex, chaotic system. And I know about chaos theory from physics. Anything can go wrong. There's a chance of unknown things happening. And the consequences could be even worse if something goes wrong with the military's use of artificial intelligence. That could be devastating. And it's not a laughing matter. I know people say Terminator, but I'd like to point out Elizabeth Warren was just at a ribbon cutting ceremony for a DARPA lab in Massachusetts. And so the Democrats and the Republicans support that. Basically, they both support the military-industrial complex. So that's why I'm not running as a Democrat. I'm not running as a Republican. I'm running with the Green Rainbow Party. And so just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should. And I believe we need a deeper perspective in the auditor's office, someone who will look at the big picture, someone that will ensure that our taxpayer dollars are spent wisely, effectively, and ethically. Unlike the Democrats and the Republicans, I don't take any contributions from corporate lobbyists or super PACs. Instead, I'm building a movement of individuals. So please consider supporting my campaign. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, Stamus for Mass Auditor, or Stamus for Massachusetts Auditor. And because I believe that together, we, the people of Massachusetts, can take our government back, weed out corruption, and make real changes to the system.
Okay, very nice. Very nice.
So vote Green Rainbow, vote for independent candidates this November. Thank you very much. Let's green your vote, invest in ourselves. Jed Stamus, thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Jed. Thank you so much. All right. We're wrapping up here. A few words from one of our sponsors, Jan Kontoff, with Food for Activists.
First of all, it's Dan the Bagel Man. I still use that moniker because the idea of activism, and that's what we're all here for. We cater protests, we feed the homeless, but the goal is how do we make a better world? How do we fight corporations like Monsanto if we just sit back like people, you see tourists walking by and like, what? We need to go beyond those people. We need to engage them. We need to wake them up because we have major environmental problems. I like honey, but what if there's no more bees left, no more honey? That's just tip of the iceberg for Monsanto, which is all over the world. You've heard the stories from other people. And that's why I'm an activist, to fight corporate greed. Monsanto is not the only company. They're connected to many violent companies, and that's why our third-party candidates need to run, take back from a one-party system of Wall Street. And Monsanto's part of that system, and that's what we need to eradicate, Wall Street. I ask people on the subway every day, what do you think? Should we stop climate change? And they say yes. So that means getting rid of Wall Street. And no, I can't. I need my Wall Street because it pays their stocks and bonds. It makes them happy. That's the problem in America. We're so caught up in capitalism and consumption, consuming the planet's resources for our violent needs of greed and capitalism. And that's half our problem. We need to think about eradicating Wall Street to save the planet, or at least stopping the way it's run right now, because it's not healthy. And Monsanto and Coca-Cola and other major American companies are destroying the planet. McDonald's, Burger, Wendy's cut down the rainforest for years, and what's being said about that? Well, people go to gluttons and they go there. They don't even care what they're shopping. Spending money is the message. Everything we do in money is a monetary message, positive and negative. And Monsanto, we know, is a negative message. So I'm just here with Food Factors here to, thank you all for coming. I can go on and on for politics of the left because everything's connected. We're all connected, and Monsanto is one of the reasons we're here to eradicate this greed. So thank you guys for coming, and check us out on Facebook, Food for Activists.
Thank you, Dan. All right, and our last sponsor, Michael Borson, is going to speak from the Committee for Peace and Human Rights. And our microphone and location is thanks to these guys, so we appreciate your partnership.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out in the bad weather. Usually, Saturday vigil, it will be raining at 1 o'clock till it's off by some miracle. Today it didn't. Anyway, we've been here since 1998, the Committee for Peace and Human Rights. We started out vigilantly here during the great Liberals administration of Bill Clinton, when he was sanctioning Iraq, starving the Iraqis to death, and bombing them in no-fly zones. The great Liberal Bill Clinton. And so we were protesting then, and we've been here ever since. I was one of the founders. Our Facebook page is Saturday Peace Vigil at Park Street. And come any Saturday, 1 to 2 p.m. We're always here. We have a microphone system we're using right here. And we speak about anti-war and social justice issues. And what else can I say? I've been an activist since 1971. The first person I voted for when I turned 18 in 1972, they brought about the 18-year-old vote. And I was the first year I could vote. I voted for Shirley Chisholm for president, the great radical congresswoman from Texas. Anti-war candidate, social justice candidate. She's passed away recently, but that's who I voted for in the first presidential election I could vote in 1972. Anyway, GMOs and chemical pollution in our water and food is horrible. I think it causes most of our diseases, and stress. So I think If we had clean water and natural foods to eat, most of our illnesses like cancer and other illnesses like that would not exist. And in my building, I can't drink the water. I need a water filter, my faucet. Come today, I can't drink the water out of the water faucet. That's pretty bad, you know. And I have a slight case of Parkinson's disease. That's caused by a chemical pollution. A lot of firefighters in Massachusetts get Parkinson's at 10 times the normal rate. They just presented a bill at the State House for compensation for the firefighters. Parkinson's is caused a lot by toxins, because firefighters are exposed to toxins every time they fight a fire. And so I'm saying, you know, most of our illnesses are caused by the water we drink and the food we eat and the air we breathe. And I wrote a song once to leave you with, part of the song. It's called In America. And the last verse goes, can I drink the water? Can I breathe the air? In a sense that the prison in this land all is fair. Should listen to the Native American. They cut him down where he stands. If you want to live, just get back to the land. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. You're invited every Saturday to come join us. Bring your friends. We may be the longest running peace vigil in the country, as far as I know. Peace vigil. I don't know how to find that statistic out, but maybe. I don't know. Thank you. Thanks to the Monsanto people. Also, I'm trying to put the video up, part of it on the Monsanto Facebook if they want it. And thank you for braving the elements and you know, keep on struggling. And the victory is ours if we solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Great talk.
Thank you. All right.
Still coming out here doing
So I just want to do a shout out to
if that guy can come out here and
today.
talk, why aren't you out
Bill
here?
Sombrello, Dr. Shiva, Tara Friedrichs, Jad Stamos, Somna Mukherjee, and Luis Sanchez, and Ebbs. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the Green Rainbow Party, the Committee for Peace and Human Rights, and Food for Activists for sponsoring. And thanks to everybody that helped organize it. This has been a great event. We're going to do lead a few chants to practice, and then we're going to do a short march and end at the State House. David is going to help us practice our chants.
Long live the Syrian Arab Republic. This guy might be a real live Russian bot.
Monsanto gets richer, the world gets sicker.
Monsanto
Gets richer, the world gets sicker.
We won't eat corporate seeds of greed.
We won't eat
Corporate seeds of greed.
Very nice.
Okay, we've got
Our bodies, our voice, label our food, give us a choice. Our bodies, our label our food, give us a choice. When our food supply is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. When our food supply is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back.
This guy's awesome.
Inch by inch, row by row, I'm gonna let my garden grow. We don't need no GMO. Say goodbye to Monsanto. Let's just do the last two. Should we do that one?
Yeah, that was good.
Inch by inch, row by row, I'm gonna let my garden grow. We don't need no GMO. Say goodbye to Monsanto.
Oh, man. All right. I think that's all the talks. Hope you all enjoyed all that. We're going to march around. I will get the film on my little GoPro thing. I'm about as wet and as cold as I could possibly be for, what is it, May something? But we're here. So this is what it's all about. So this is going on in a city near you too. So it's not just going on in Massachusetts. If you're somewhere else in the world out there, you can go to a March Against Monsanto near you. So it's still time for you to get out and go. So I'm sure it's still going on like the West Coast and all that. They probably aren't even started yet. So, all right, peace everybody. I'm ending the stream now.